the rifle has this like hidden trick to it, where you kind of want to rank the top 3 secrets that you want to get, because you always want to insta pick something,
What do
because that
you
can.
what do you yell before you swing with the rifle? Because in Brute Demon Hunter, you yell "Brute me, dude!" before the you draw a bunch of cards so you can get your
Yeah,
brutes down. In Rogue, you yell "Null me, dude!" What do you yell in
yeah.
Hunter?
I don't gel. It's almost, like an anime where you're just sweaty and you're staring at the screen and you have like 2 lines in your face moving. And then I have to just quickly pick a secret just to kind of poker face my opponent. So
What is going on, everybody? We are back with the deck code. My name is SamSeesGhosts, and I am joined by my wonderful co-host, just as my refrigerator turns on, AxelK. Axel, how you going, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm getting hungry now that your refrigerator is going off, but I'm more hungry to talk about Hearthstone.
Me too. But it's very rude of my fridge. We have been talking for a good, what do you say, 20, 30 minutes before we started
Yeah.
recording. And the second I hit record and introduce everything, it goes off. So on my end, if you hear some buzzing, I apologize. I'm not going to wait for it to turn off because it could be a while. So I
Yeah.
apologize. But yeah, no, Hearthstone, I'm excited to talk about it too. I have a lot of thoughts on what's been going on right now, and I'm sure you do too. But before we get into it, I want to remind everybody listening and watching that they can subscribe. They should subscribe to this channel if you want to keep up with the deck code, as well as like the video and comment your thoughts, because we're going to talk about the meta a lot today,
Yeah.
and that helps with the YouTube algorithm. You can make fun of all the times I mess up a word also. And you can find Axel, his channel will be in the description, but he is over at AxelK. That's just his
Yeah, that's it.
channel. And you can find us both on Twitter, which will be in the description below. Axel, I'm sure you can tell my coffee is not fully set in yet. I'm still messing up words.
Nah, it's all right. I am English second language, so it's gonna be like hearing 2 Swedish boys talk.
No,
So
it's going to be like hearing two sweet boys talk.
yeah.
But it's amazing. Axel has better English than I do, and that's his second language. So, but
All right,
Axel,
man.
let's talk about some Hearthstone.
Yeah.
How
So
how are you doing in ladder?
so I just hit Legend like 2 days ago, and I haven't been able to play too much in Legend yet. Um, but man, my climb was rough.
Oh yeah.
My climb, yeah, it was super hard because I did every single mistake that you can make.
Oh, I know the mistake you made. You played Hearthstone.
Yes, but that's actually one of them. Like I overplayed,
Yeah.
like a lot, because I just had kind of my eyes on the goal. I was like, I just gotta get legend quickly, because I usually hit it at like I like to say like my first day of work. I usually hit legend, so it's usually like day either like day 2 or 3 or 4 or something. I did it on day 7, which is like I haven't been that late in like maybe 7 months or something. So it was definitely different, and it's not due to any like issues on the ladder. Like I kind of switched decks a lot,
Yeah.
like a lot, because I tried to counterpick, and kind of looking at the numbers, I think the first thing that I would try to counterpick was Paladin. So I went Quest Rogue, and it worked out super well until I stopped playing against Paladins. And then I tried to counter Poison Rogue by playing Paladin. But there were no Poison Rogues around, of course. That's the way it happens when you try to counterpick something. That's why I actually like, unless there are like super, like unless it's consistently like a ton of a class, you shouldn't really try to counterpick, in my opinion. But yeah, so I kind of went back and forth like that, trying to counter like either Poison Rogue or Paladin. And yeah, it just kind of ended up being a miserable experience for me. And finally, I was just like, what deck am I good at? Face Hunter. I know it's very like right now it's very disadvantaged because like most of my matchups were against either Thief Rogue, Paladin, or other Face Hunters, which is no good matchups except for a mirror.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
mirrors to me are never the most fun thing in Hearthstone.
no, usually not. But I am very confident as a Face Hunter player. So I won every single mirror except for one, and I think it just like even though I honestly like I have like 1,800 wins or something with Hunter, where the vast majority is some variation of Face Hunter. So it's like probably 3,000 games or something with Face Hunter. So I'm very like I'm good at that deck for real. So mirrors are usually like pretty easy.
Axel, the first thing he saw when playing the Hearthstone tutorial was his opponent's face, and he's like, "I can hit that."
Yeah, man. No, actually, like this stems from me playing all red, uh,
Oh, that's right.
all red in Magic the Gathering when I was a kid, like a goblin deck with charge or haste, as it was
So,
called.
so I know I was memeing a little bit, but we were talking a bit before the show about the Face Hunter mirror, and we don't have to
Yep.
get into it right now, but I think it's a testament that you know that deck so well that you can kind of orientate
Yep.
how, I think that's the word, or tell someone how that mirror goes, like what you're supposed to do, not just in like a broad sense, but also just like this is how you use this card, and this is how
Yeah.
you use the rifle, this is how you do the do X if you draw Y. It's just very interesting that you have
Yeah.
such that skill level to and the understanding of that deck so that you can do that.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of experience, a lot of like trial and error, and never like I know it's like one of the like easiest decks to play. Like you can call it whatever you want, but experience will always like Hearthstone is a pretty balanced game after all, and if you get good at something, you're gonna have a big edge.
Right.
Especially with decks like Face Hunter, that's usually kind of flavor of the month that people don't really invest time in. So if you have invested a lot of time in it, of course you're gonna have a leg up, right?
Right. And I think I know this is a Hearthstone podcast, so we won't stick with this too long, but I think that um experience in anything is going to give you a
Yep.
leg up on whatever you're doing, obviously. Like you are a significantly better content creator than I am because you spend time
Oh,
doing that stuff.
don't worry.
But if I were to take you to the gym, I would destroy you because I spend so
Yeah.
much time doing that stuff, right? Like, and that's not
Yeah.
just gym and content creation. That's anything, like in
Yeah.
profession or otherwise. So, but it's that I think we're skipping around a good point here that if you want to get good at a deck, whether it's incredibly meta like Face Hunter or off meta, and you want to get good at deck building, you got to put the time in. I'm sure
Yeah.
Axel's lost a bunch of mirrors trying to get
Yep.
good at Face Hunter, and now he understands why he's lost those mirrors.
Yeah, I think to this very day I probably have more losses on my account than I have wins.
I wish it would show you losses. Actually, I don't
Yeah.
because it'd be a lot, but I do want to see it.
Man, I'm proud of every single loss I have.
But yeah, so that seems like I think like that too, like what you said, making mistakes in your climb to legend, you being able to like recognize you were making a mistake and you talk
Yeah.
about it now, that's good, right? Like it's not like you got frustrated and salty and tweeted at the developers to fix their game.
Yeah, because sometimes you just know like
Yeah.
I trust the data so much
Yeah.
that if I know that it's a good meta and I don't feel like it's a good meta, I like okay, it's a good meta anyways, so
Yeah.
it's kind of have to live with it. Not that it's like I think the meta is good, obviously.
Yeah, I think this meta is good too. We're gonna get into that in a bit. Um,
Yeah.
but but yeah, I got to
Mm.
Legend on day 2. This is like the earliest I ever got to Legend. Um, I peaked in the top 200. I was on the leaderboard for the first time ever,
Yeah, I saw. It
and I
was really
was,
cool.
and actually the Play Hearthstone account liked that tweet.
Oof. That's
So I
huge,
feel
man.
like now I actually have to make content again to keep
Yeah.
that ball rolling. But no, I got to Legend. I started playing. I listened to Vicious Syndicate. I was coming home from my girlfriend's house, and she lives about 3 hours away. So I drove and I had the podcast on. And they said that Thief Rogue is super popular. And Fel DH counters that. And I played some Fel DH, lost every game. I was like, well, this isn't good.
Yeah.
So then I played some Taunt Druid, won a game, then played Handlock to like gold. And I was like, whatever, just go to bed, you're tired. Then I came back the next day, the second, and just played Taunt Druid all the way to Legend, basically. Some Handlock, but mostly Taunt Druid. And man, that deck was good. I think it still is pretty good, but it's so satisfying to have a Trogg on the board after you play a taunt, and then like your opponent doesn't do anything, or they play spells and give you Troggs, and on turn 4 or 5 you get Arbor Up, and you just like get them.
Yeah, and like you still run the what's it called, like the peasant that will draw.
You still run Peasant, but you don't run Greybow and Teacher's Pet anymore. You run Drekthar, which also fills your board up for turn 5 Arbor Up.
Yeah. But yeah, man, if you get like a Trogg on board and a peon, oh my god, it's like how do you even remove that peon? He's gonna draw you like 3 cards.
Except unless they're a Demon Hunter, then they're just like hero power Peasant. And it's sad.
If they're a rogue disguised as a Demon Hunter, you just pick that off with the Demon Hunter hero power.
Before I keep going into this, did you know there's a bug or a way to tell if your Demon Hunter opponent is a rogue?
No, I don't think so.
So if they hero power on 1, and you go over to the sidebar, it'll have the Demon Hunter hero power as 2 mana instead of 1 mana, and then you know it's a rogue.
That's some hacking business, man.
We're going to talk about my feelings about rogue here in a bit, and they're not pleasant, but I can't get into that headspace right now. But yeah, so peaked in the top 200, which was awesome. I think I'm around 1,500 right now. Just from natural erosion, learning decks for THL. But I think like Axel did a bit, he was overplaying. I definitely have realized I'm overplaying. I'm not fully invested in all my games. I'm kind of like against certain decks I just auto concede because I don't want to sit through the matchup. And that kind of tells me it's time to take a break. I watched some of The Witcher, so I think I'm going to go play Witcher 3 later today after. No one can see it, thankfully, but this apartment is a mess. It is awful, and it needs to get cleaned. So after that's done, I'll probably listen to Vicious Syndicate podcast while I do that, and then play some Witcher, get some pizza. It'll be good.
Ooh, that's the dream, man.
But yeah, I'm not ready to talk about the meta yet. I do think that Legend, and I think people are just a little tired. It's past the holidays, and everyone's like, oh, stuff in the real world's going on, and I think that affects how I've been playing too.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so we don't have to talk about the meta just yet. So I was thinking that, do you want to talk about your Legend experience though?
Yeah. So I think playing in the top 200, which wasn't for very long. After I logged out after a day and I was in like top 400. Then I logged back in the next day. It was like 700, just because so many people are entering Legend.
Yeah.
But aside from an outlier deck, 2 of them, I feel like this meta is very competitive, and part of that I think is because people are trying for a finish now, because of Masters Tour. Because if you get top 50, you go to Masters Tour, which is cool. And I do feel like a lot of games are competitive. It feels like every game is pretty wide open. There's a lot of decision points in most matchups that will decide a game, which I think is awesome. And I kind of feel like you're rewarded at 11x where I am right now for knowing those decision points and playing fully focused, which admittedly I haven't. So yeah, when you were top 1,000 or in that area, how did you feel the same?
Yeah, so I was top 1,000 for I think almost an entire month, and I played so much and I put a lot of effort into it. But yeah, I agree. But I think it might have been a little different because literally everyone was playing Garrett Rogue when I was top 1K. So there wasn't really like. It was all about just kind of countering that Garrett Rogue.
Yeah.
So there would be like 70% or something. So I didn't feel like it wasn't like the best Hearthstone experience for me playing at that MMR. But I think depending on the meta, like that deck was so much better than everything else that like what else would you expect, right?
Right. But I
Yeah.
think I think to play at that level, which I would say is like 11x level,
Yep, it is.
consistently, like if you want to like, oh, I got to 1500, but then next day I fell down to 2500, whatever. I do think you have to be on, like you have to be like, like you have to be focused on the game to be
Oh, definitely.
successful. But I think if you want to try and, especially for newer players, if you want to increase your Hearthstone game a little bit, you should just really focus on the game. I do
Yeah.
I do put music or a YouTube video on or a Twitch stream, but I do know that when I'm focused on a game, like it's just white noise. Like then it's just that's the game is right there and everything else doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
so I think that that is a skill to be able to be super focused in a session of Hearthstone.
Yeah, definitely. Like that was the way I did it. My very first legend and my second legend, like many years ago, I used to just turn off my second screen and have nothing else, like no music, anything, and just played, just to get it.
No,
And
it's
obviously, like
yeah. Go ahead.
that improves your win rate a lot. Actually, like just imagine if that improves your win rate with 1%. That's pretty huge,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, if you
Imagine
go
if you could
from
just
50 to 51%, that's great.
that's the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, highly recommend just focusing, obviously. But it's hard. Like I have this weird thing where this is like probably like very like placebo-ish, but I can feel when I'm gonna get legend.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
know.
really weird.
I get what you're saying. I
Yeah,
have that same feeling.
yeah. So like a couple of days when I was just jamming games this season, I knew I'm not gonna get legend today because I don't feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was playing the Taunt Druid, I was kind of like a Diamond 3, and I was like, I did have a 2-star bonus at that point, but I was like, we can get there. And then I just
Yeah.
like went on a tear. Just like there is, and I think like really good players, like top, like Masters Tour level players, are really good at flipping that switch themselves
Yeah.
without needing to like do it. They just go. And
Yeah.
I don't think I'm quite there yet. I think I'm getting closer. I think I'm just a little burnt out right now, unfortunately,
Yeah.
because of the meta, which
Uh,
we've put it off enough. I have
uh,
thoughts. They're
do
not
it.
great thoughts, but we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
So I do want to start by saying I negative thoughts about a meta doesn't mean the game is bad. I don't think Hearthstone's bad right now. I just think that there is one thing that needs to be fixed. But I say that because I know a lot of discourse on Twitter and Reddit and other spots of the internet usually turn into awful discourses about what makes a game good. We're not here to do that. We're not here to like yell at the developers. We're just going to state our
No.
opinion about a specific class or two. Mine's going to be a specific class, and we're not going to say how they should fix it. We're going to state our claim, and we're also going to say good things about it. I'm going to try to be as nuanced about this as possible, but I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah. But I have a bunch of good things to say about the class in question. So
Okay,
just
I
yeah.
probably do too, but I think, and I do want to say I think this meta is very close to being one of the best metas we've ever had.
Yeah.
But the outlier is Rogue. Rogue is
Yeah.
a significant outlier in this meta, and it's difficult because there's two Rogue classes that are the outlier. There's Thief Rogue and there's Poison Rogue. And Thief Rogue is relatively targetable. You can target Thief Rogue to an extent if you're running clears, but if you're trying to target that, you run to a Poison Rogue on ladder, you're going to get stomped.
Yep.
So the cards, let's start with Thief Rogue because I think it's the more popular. Then we'll talk about Poison Rogue.
Yep.
So why don't you start this discussion on Thief Rogue, because I'm just going to talk shit if I talk about Thief Rogue.
Yeah, so I can talk about it and play Maestro's advocate here.
Yes, okay.
But yeah, so I haven't actually gotten around to playing
I
the
haven't
like
either.
best version of it.
Yeah.
I played an early build, like a super early build, where I stole a mithril rod with Vanessa, which was really cool. And there's a video on it where I just kind of steamroll a warlock with 0 mana cards, which was just awesome. But for the deck, it's like what it's about is it's about kind of creating a a pretty big board that you can trade with, and then you just send everything upstairs and just kill your opponent.
Right.
But there's a lot of like random discoveries in it. So there's a very important card in this deck that's it's the Null. I don't remember the full name of it, but
Yes, so I have the list up. It's Wild Paw Knoll, but I think even before that, we have to talk about the card that literally makes this deck a deck, and that's Maestro of the
Maestro.
Masquerade.
Yeah. Yeah, she turns you into another class, and whenever you pull a rogue card, this will discount your nulls, right? They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So there, yeah.
And when you start the game, like Axel said, you start as a different class, and when you play a card, you become rogue again. But if you draw a card, like Axel said, if you trade your cards that are rogue cards, like Blackwater Cutlass and SI7 Extortion,
Yep.
Duzzinghouse is playing the card, you're trading the card, and if you add another rogue, when you add another rogue card to your hand, it discounts your nulls.
Yeah. So and that's kind of like, if you want to put it very basically, that's what the deck is about, discounting your nulls because they're
Yes.
so good. And also like Maestra has a bunch of weird interactions that you really need to kind of have experience with the deck to know. So if you pick this up, some good stuff are coming. If you draw a card, like if you play a card that will draw you another card, you will draw first before the card activates. So you will get that discount. So let's say you play Secret Passage is like the big thing, right? If you Secret Passage, you will draw the cards before it recognizes that you played a rogue card.
Right.
So you will get the discount before you turn into a rogue. So you can just kind of, not that I think that Secret Passage on 1 is a really good play, but if you do that, your nulls are going to be free.
Yes.
So there are a bunch of like interactions like that. Also, you get to discover a bunch of random cards.
A lot of death rattles, too.
Yeah. Yes, which is like very powerful death rattles since they are class death rattles.
And they
So
will cost they will cost 2 less also. So if you preparation out a reconnaissance, which is also 2 mana on 3, and you say you discovered Grey Bow, you can play a 3 mana Grey Bow.
Yep, it's absolutely insane.
I hate it.
Yeah, a 3 mana Grey Bow together with like 2 nulls that are free. Like you're never getting through that board unless
this deck has
you're a
so much early game. Like Wild Paw Knolls cost 5. They cost 0. They don't cost mana.
No.
You have Double Agent also, which if you play, which you can play on 2 if you have coin, which is if you're holding cards from different class, and remember you start the game as a different class. So if you're a shaman holding rogue cards, you get 2 3/3s, which is ridiculous. It's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, so there are some other tricks that I think are worth mentioning.
Yep.
Do you know about, and I think it's kind of newly found, the Van Cleef Shadow Step.
So this isn't newly found, but I think people are utilizing it now. I was watching a video back when he first came out in the mini sets. So do you know who Raffle is? He's a wild content creator.
Yeah, I know.
He was playing a cute rogue deck with Van Cleef where like all his cards cost 0. So he would like play Van Cleef on 4 Shadow Step and draw a bunch of cards. So what happens with that is if you Shadow Step Van Cleef, his Battle Cry still activates because you're still drawing the card. And in your hand, he gets buffed.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think when you play him again, his Battle Cry activates again.
Yes,
right?
but
So
if he gained 8/8 worth of stats in your hand from his first time, he comes down as a 12/12.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, he's gonna be at like 2 mana, so it's very easy to play him with Mr. Smite.
If you are Scabs, you can play him as a 0 mana in that case.
Exactly. So you can get these like really big big Van Cleef turns, which
Yep.
is just a nice finisher, but it's not like that's not like your entire game plan doesn't revolve around that, but it's just like a really nice finish. And I think that's where I can be like the devil's advocate and say that it's really nice that this is actually a pretty skill testing deck.
I'm not saying it's not a skill testing deck. I think that this
No.
deck has a lot of, especially with the discover cards like Reconnaissance, Wand Thief, Swashbuckler. I'm looking at the deck right now. There's a lot of different ways to kind of go about creating board states that are hard to deal with. Your Knolls cost 0 usually. You can Shadow Step them and they'll come back as 0 mana 4/5s. Prize Plunder is a stupidly good card because all your cards cost 0. At the top end, you have Scabs, who has Vanish for 7 mana, which is still great. That returns all minions to the opponent, to everyone's hand. Then he summons 2 4/2s, and he has a 0 mana hero power that makes your cards cost 2 less.
Yeah.
This deck is so efficient at not spending mana.
Yep, definitely. And so Scabs, I think Scabs is like the card that people hate the most. I think everything else is kind of fine. I know Knolls are annoying.
Knolls could probably cost another mana or 2. I would say they could cost 7 and still be pretty playable.
Yeah. But I think Scabs is like the big one. Because it's in every single rogue deck.
Yes. And this deck, we're spending a lot of time on this. We probably won't spend as much time on every other deck, but this deck does kind of dictate what the meta can and can't do. Good luck playing a very early game board-based deck like on Druid or Face Hunter against this deck, because they will just remove all your stuff. And Warlock is probably the hard counter, but any other deck that has removal like Fell Demon Hunter can't keep up with the amount of damage this deck can put out at the end of the game. So it's a very well curved out deck. It has a lot of power behind it, and it's just very efficient at what it does. And in Hearthstone, the more efficient your deck is, the better it is.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems like people have had enough by now.
Yep, I've had enough.
Yep.
I've had enough. It's just, this deck is just kind of exhausting to me because their cards don't cost mana. And one of my big problems with something like Garrote Rogue or Quest Mage last meta was that it just kind of feels like I'm watching my opponent do something. The issue is this time it interacts with what I'm doing, where like, Quest Mage was annoying, but if I was playing Death Rattle Demon Hunter, for example, they went on turn 4, they did a bunch of stuff, but that my board was still fine. Like I could play my 3/3 that summons another Death Rattle. I could build my board up. They had if they messed with it, then my board could come back. This doesn't feel that way. It feels like if I play any kind of board-based deck into this deck, my board's going to be gone, and they're going to have a board, and then they're going to Secret Passage on 4, and with like 1 card in their hand, they're going to end the turn with like 6. It's just very efficient at not spending mana, and that's kind of like where my issue of it is. And then like you're like, okay, I put the pressure on, I'm going to kill them. It's 7. Oh nope, they Scabs.
Yeah, it's I think like Scabs is kind of the cherry on top, right? When you think that you have a chance, Scabs comes down.
Yeah, they always have Scabs. They will always have Scabs.
Yeah, because they're so efficient at drawing as well.
Yeah,
so like, of course, like it's that's kind of the way. But what I think, like, just to me, like this is an AxelK thing. I rather get blown out early than go long games and lose. I think.
I mean, this deck is not unbeatable. I've been playing a ton of Beast Druid, like a very low to the ground plays minions Beast Druid, and as long as they don't, it sucks to say as long as they don't get their powerful card, but as long as they don't get Null on 3, if they come down on 4, you have a chance. Yeah. But Null is a 0 mana 4/5 that they can Shadow Step. It costs 0 mana. They can Prize Plunder your board. It's just really good at taking control of the board and not letting go. And that's frustrating to, at least for me. Like people are like, the board matters. Yeah, it does, but only my opponent's board does because I can't do anything to it.
But Beast Druid, don't they have a 0 mana 4/5?
Yeah, but guess what? I gotta play other cards to get that.
Yeah, I know.
I have to play a Druid of the Reef on 1, then some turtles, and then my kennels, and then it can cost 0. Rogue
Yeah.
draws cards and their cards cost 0. That's the other thing
Yeah.
too, is like, yeah, Beast Druid does have those it does have those power turns where you Oracle, Matriarch, and you have a board full of 4/5s with taunt, but you have to build up to that. It's not happening on turn
Yeah.
2, or
Yeah.
Ibis isn't coming down on turn 3 and being a 4 mana 5. It's not a 4/5. It's a whatever Ibis would be on turn 3, which
Yeah.
isn't good.
Like you have to spend resources to get
Yeah.
it, and they kind of have to gain resources to get it.
Yes,
Which is
that's so. Axel's been really good about. I mean, I told Axel like I'd probably start swearing about this deck because I really just don't. It's just not a fun deck for me as a player, which isn't a bad thing. There are people that like this style of deck because it's not an OTK deck. It is a deck where you care about the board, you play for board, you draw a bunch of cards, you discover a bunch. It's a fun deck to play. It's not a fun deck to play against.
No, but yeah. So I don't know. To me, this isn't the most frustrating deck. Not even the most frustrating deck in the meta.
Be less frustrating. Well, it's not. We're going to talk about a frustrating deck. This would be less frustrating to me though if it wasn't 15-20% of the meta.
To me, on my climb, it was exactly 30.
Yeah, like it's very high percentage of the meta. Like if this was like a 5, if I saw this 5% of the time instead of as much as I do see it, I'd say that's whatever. It's a good deck. It's efficient. At least it's not every game. And then like every game is just like it's kind of like so I posted a GIF of this on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter for great memes. But it's Jim from The Office after Dwight hits him with a bunch of snowballs, and he's just like, I just wanted to stop. And that's how I feel about this. I just wanted to stop. Well, let's talk about the deck that we both, I think we're talking about the same deck. It's a rogue deck, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's another rogue deck. Very close to my heart, this one.
This deck is also propped up by Shadowcaster Scabs.
Yeah.
And that is Poison Rogue. This deck has been around since Barons, and it's finally to the point where it's stupid.
Yeah. I love Poison Rogue. It's one of my all-time favorite decks. But I think that I'm not super okay with the power level right now of it. Because you actually... So it's all about making a big knife, fill it with poison, and then hit your opponent in the face. And you're super good at dealing damage, and you run like you basically run 0 minions. You have like maybe a couple of.
According to the Vicious Syndicate list, you have 2 minions, which you don't play until you need to. They are Rotruz Viper when you run to a paladin, and Guild Trader for when you want to kill your opponent.
Yeah. So I think where this has become problematic is that before you could get stopped, like a 1/1 Divine Shield taunt would stop you.
Yep.
But now you don't even need to connect face with the knife.
Right.
Because you are basically almost like a Spellburst Garrote Rogue.
Yep. I'm sorry, that's a good point too. If you get off early enough and put those taunts up early enough, it does matter. When I was playing Taunt Druid on my way to Legend, I coined out a Battlemaster on 1, I mean, played a Noyotron, and then the deck I was running ran Mark of the Spike Shell, which adds the taunt back to your hand and buffs the minion. So then I had another one, and the rogue couldn't keep up with that, so it did matter. But Axel's right. In the long part of the game, once people figure out how this deck really works, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and on my channel, I know it's more promotion, but I have a very good, like, I did a video on this recently, like last Monday. And the last game that I play is against a paladin, and I win without ever drawing the knife or playing the knife, not even equipping it. And it's a long game too, so it's not like I just kind of.
I'm gonna go watch that video.
Yeah, so it's the deck is really strong even without getting your weapon, and it's a lot due to of course the spell damage with your what is it called, like
Guild,
the spell power minion
Guild Trader.
yeah.
Yep.
But you're also, it's so hard for your opponent to even hit you because you have 2 Cloak of Shadows, which makes you invulnerable for a turn. Like the only thing that can hit you is like Hunter Hero Power, Mask of Cthulhu, stuff like that, because you go into stealth.
Yep.
And then you have Shadowcrafter Scabs, which will send everything back to the board, which is basically the same, right? You'll get some armor as well to top you off if your opponent has some spells. But it's very hard to just kill you because you have 3 ways of becoming basically invulnerable, or making it so that your opponent's board doesn't matter.
So I don't use the word toxic, and that's not the word that I want to use here, but the power that people are calling it toxic, but the powerful thing you do is on 5, you Cloak of Shadows. On 6, you Cloak of Shadows. On 7, you return to hand. If they're not dead by then, you Guild Trader for 2, and then you just play your whole deck and kill them.
Yeah, and also if you spend that time, even though you're not like, even if you're not even get to connect your knife to the face, if you spend all that time building up a big knife, you're going to get that one hit when you play Scabs.
And that's going to draw, when you attack, it's going to draw you cards. Your Garrotes are going to draw and deal damage. With Guild Trader, they deal 4. It's so much damage by turn 7, 8. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you're so good at drawing that you will have your resources.
Yeah, you will draw your deck by 7 or 8.
Yeah, so it's super good. It's a very frustrating experience not being able to hit your opponent.
Yeah,
because usually, like when they cloak, you kind of have to go like, okay, this is kind of my moment to just build the board. So you make a mega board, and then they play Scabs, send it back, and kill off the cards that will get burnt when your hand is too big, right?
Yep.
So you lose a bunch of resources as well. So it's not like, if you're really unlucky, I think it might be determined on placement, or
no, it's order. It's order. It's order they're played. Yeah.
So I mean, if you're super good and you can kind of navigate that, man, that's awesome. But I'm definitely not. I'm not a 5-head gamer like that. So,
no.
Like if I get unlucky, I will just kind of burn the card that might have saved me, right?
Right. This deck, part of the issue to me with this deck is this used to be a deck that was kind of like, oh, it's policing the meta. There's a lot of quest mages or Mozaki mages right now. Oh, well, high legend players are going to play this. They're going to counter it. It's going to be great. Now this kind of has a chance against everything, which is very frustrating.
Yep. So yeah, people aren't super happy about that.
No.
And but it's one of those things. I don't think you want Cloak of Shadow. I think a lot of people want it to go away. But I think like having that third that Scabs is really like what makes this deck really overpowered.
Well, the thing for me with Rogue, and right now especially, is like we had Ice Block, which we Hall of Famed, and now we have an Ice Block for Rogue.
Yeah.
We had Vanish, which was Hall of Famed. Now Rogue has a Vanish again. And it doesn't matter that it costs 1 mana more. It really doesn't. Because the hero power costs 0. They gain armor.
Yeah.
So a lot of my frustrations with Rogue are just kind of, a lot of it's Scabs. If I was going to nerf Scabs, I would nerf Scabs. I would nerf Null, because you can't nerf Cloak of Shadows, because you can still go 5 Cloak, 6 Cloak, 7 Scabs. You have to nerf Scabs if you want that to not be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you're not going to be able to make as efficient plays, and sometimes you kind of, I guess you will get, if you nerfed Cloak, I think you could blow them out quicker. I guess, like, if it's 4 mana, you could just kind of win way earlier, and when they play the Cloak, they're not going to be able to take advantage of that turn. They're just going to stall.
I think I think it's just based on, I'm not making a definite statement, just based on how they have nerfed in the past. It's cards that are strong in both decks, and those are Secret Passage and Scabs.
Yeah, and I don't want them to touch Passage. I love that card.
They
I
could.
think it's
That
great.
card could draw 3 cards and still be powerful.
I think it should draw 5.
It used to. It used to
I
draw
know.
5, and that was awful. But Axel, thank you for guiding me through that without me losing my mind talking about Rogue. But yeah, I think for me as a player who likes to play those early board-based decks like Druid and Demon Hunter, it is frustrating. And especially because your removal strategies are less efficient against Thief Rogue, it's frustrating. And Poison Rogue, we both just kind of know it's frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. And I used to be the Poison Rogue.
Yeah,
right?
I used to.
So
You were the, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
yeah,
And
so
you became
true,
the
so
villain.
true.
And that was kind of the thing with we'll move on after this, but that was kind of the thing with Spell Mage too, right? Like Spell Mage and Ashes was kind of just, oh, it's a fun deck. It's not very good. It's like tier 3. I remember that was like one of the first decks I did a video on. And then it became Deck of Lunacy and then then Quest Mage, and it was like, yep, it's not the same.
It's ramped up the power a lot.
Yep. And speaking of decks that are ramping up the power, this is the other, we're going to go through the meta after this, but there's another deck we kind of want to talk about, and that is, and there's a kind of a disclaimer here. Axel actually brought this up, and I think it's a good thing to talk about, is this deck isn't necessarily the best at higher ranks. And I say that not trying to criticize people at lower ranks or saying that they are not as good, but it's definitely the higher you go on ladder, the lower, the easier it is to counter. And it's also dominating lower ranks, and that is Pirate Warrior.
Yes, Quest Pirate Warrior. I have a lot of opinions and feelings about this deck.
So why don't I take the lead on this one? I played this a bit last season, and then you can interject where you feel the need. So I'm looking at the deck on Vicious Syndicate right now. The deck obviously runs the quest, which is Raid the Docks. It's a quest line, so you have 3 lines to it. It's 3. You play, the first one's play 3 pirates. You play 3 pirates, then you draw a weapon. The second one is play 2 pirates, and then you deal 2 damage twice to random enemies. Then the third one is play 2 more pirates, and you get Capture Rokara. When Rokara comes down, she summons the Juggernaut, which each turn fires 2 cannonballs at 2 enemies, dealing 2 damage, and equips a random weapon. That can be anything from Bulwark of Aznoth, which is a low roll, to, depending on the situation, or Gorehowl, which is a high roll, and it also summons a random pirate. That card does a lot. And you can't get rid of the Juggernaut. It's impossible. It takes a space up on the board, but it's not targetable.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming.
It is, especially to decks that are unable to keep up with that. There are a lot of decks that can keep up with it, but if you're playing a deck you're not keeping up, once that Juggernaut comes down, you are definitely on a timer.
Yeah.
But looking at this deck, it runs, just let me count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4 cards that aren't pirates. The rest is all pirates. So you're just playing pirates because you want to complete the quest as fast as possible. You want to do the most efficient play per turn. Oftentimes that's, you just play a 2-mana 2/3 that's Battlecry says gain stats equal to your weapon on turn 2 because you want to complete your quest. I have, like I said, I played this a bit at Legend. This actually got me to top 1,000 last month. And some of the plays you do here, the most efficient play is not spending all your mana. Sometimes it's, I'm at 3 mana, but I don't want to play my Defias Cannoneer, so I'm going to play my Bloodsail Raider instead. And it's going to move my quest forward, and then I'm going to play the Cannoneer on 4 after I've completed the quest and get my weapon so it goes off. So sometimes, like, I know like a lot of people like use all your mana, but sometimes the most efficient plays are you don't use all your mana because you want to complete the quest and then do something powerful later on, or your most powerful play doesn't use all your mana.
But, set up for a big swing turn.
Yeah, you want to set up, like South Sea Captain by itself on a board probably is not the most efficient play on 3. It's Harbor Scam to draw a pirate and then build your board up.
Yeah, but getting that quest tick kind of makes up for the loss of value.
Right. The quest ticks are really important. So at lower ranks, because it's such a tempo-oriented deck, and this is going to sound mean to lower rank players, I promise I don't mean that.
I'm going to be super nice to low rank players soon.
I'm going to be,
go ahead.
I'm going to give a backhanded compliment or probably an insult, depending on how you look at it. lower rank players don't necessarily know how to play for tempo and disrupt tempo. So if you're really good at this deck at a lower rank, platinum to diamond, and you're playing Pirate Warrior, you probably understand that you're playing the most efficient play per turn. And that's frustrating to play against because after the quest gets going, after the pirates get online, especially that Defias Cannoneer, the Sword Eater, the Stonemaul Anchorman, the Fogsail Freeboater can clean up board. It rolls down, it builds momentum pretty quickly and can be very overwhelming to a lot of decks, even decks that are favorable to it. If you as the player don't know how to disrupt their tempo.
Yeah, 100%.
So this deck is a problem at lower ranks, especially once Boat gets online and you're getting a whole bunch of value for free, and Mr. Smite comes down and just sends everything face. It's powerful.
Yeah. And I guess something I want to touch on is a little bit about the discourse around this deck, especially like when it comes to the higher ranks. It is true that this really falls off. Like good players know how to deal with this, but if you're in lower ranks, I don't want you to be deterred because people are kind of being really mean about this deck. They're calling it like brain dead, and nobody wants to be brain dead, man. No. Nobody wants to be a player that plays something easy. But I want to say that a lot of good players or like seasoned players, they played the game so much that they've forgotten that the game is hard and that the fundamentals are really hard. So this deck, if you're in lower ranks, this will be a skill testing deck for you because you don't have to look at the skill ceiling. You got to look at the floor, like beneath the floor. You got to look at the foundation.
Yeah.
And this deck is super good at teaching you the foundations of Hearthstone, which is basically like remove your opponent's tempo while developing your own, play on curve, and then you have some pretty big decisions in there, like do I want to play 2 pirates this turn or do I want to play 1 on curve, right? Yeah. So you actually have some decisions. So it's definitely not brain dead, especially if you're in lower ranks, because I think I need to play this because of the way like I struggled on ladder. I really need to kind of refresh my fundamentals and look at that again. And I think a lot of low ranked players really should dust cards that you like to make this deck, unless it gets nerfed, of course, because you need to play this. Because these things, like playing for tempo and kind of playing on curve and removing tempo while developing your own, whatever, you're not doing this. And that's why you're low rank. And I think this applies to like a lot of people. You're not doing these things and you need to learn it. And this deck will directly reward you in game for doing that by completing your quest and, I don't know, eventually winning the game.
So just to push back on that brain dead comment, I think that higher level players, and to an extent myself, but I if there's a deck that's good, I'll play it. Like I'm not like, oh, anti-pirate warrior. Like I played it last month. I think this deck is very straightforward with its game plan. It is play your pirates, play boat, right? Whereas decks that higher level players like Thief Rogue, like Mozaki Mage, all have like different outlets that you take to find victory. And if your opponent does something to disrupt one path, you can open up another path and go that way.
Yeah, but yeah, of course. But what I'm saying is, if you play Pirate Warrior for 100 games,
if you play Pirate Warrior, you're brain dead, and you should feel very bad about it.
Yes, no. If you're in like the lower ranks and you play Pirate Warrior for 100 games, I promise you, your Thief Rogue, your Mozaki Mage, your whatever, it's gonna get better.
Yes.
Just by playing this deck.
Yeah, it builds up those fundamentals.
Yeah. 100%. It's one of my favorite decks in the meta just because of this.
I just looking at this deck, it's 5 cards that aren't pirates, and one of them is the quest that needs pirates. I just wish this deck had a little more variety to it, that it wasn't just play pirate. You know?
Yeah, but it does have some interesting combos. Like if you play that 2/1 pirate that reduces the cost of your weapon, you can actually play your cannoneer on 3 and go off with it. And you can tempo smite, or you can set him up for your Rokara. And there are definitely things. That you can go deep with the deck.
I think that the discourse around this too is that lower rank players, again, gold, platinum, diamond, not a bad thing to be those ranks. I was those ranks for a
good.
while.
Yeah, man.
That this is very oppressive in those ranks, again, because people don't fully understand the fundamentals of Hearthstone. And I think you're right. People need to play this deck or watch a video on this deck or reassess what they think the fundamentals are. I am going to be mean now, and I'm going to tell a lot of people your jank control deck that has no win condition is not a good deck. I'm sorry.
It is true.
It's okay. You have to. I had to accept it. I played Warlock for so long and thought that Jaraxxus, before he was a hero card, was a good card. I've been in your shoes. It's okay to move on. It's okay to play a deck that goes face. Promise.
I promise you.
Ixar isn't going to knock on your door and be like, "Did you play Face Hunter today?" No. You're banned for 3 months.
Man, he would be busy standing out of, like, outside of my door, man. I played exactly every day of my life.
But no, I say that just knowing that I was in those positions where I didn't want to play meta decks or the best deck, or I didn't want to play the deck that went face. It's okay to play those decks, and it's okay to learn those decks, because I think even if you don't want to end up playing Pirate Warrior for a long time, if you play 50, 100 games or watch a video on it and understand the deck, it's going to make your deck building for your non-win condition control deck better.
Yep, I 100% agree. I think everybody should play.
Now that I've insulted everyone in gold through platinum, let's talk about the rest of the meta. Do you have any last thoughts you want to say on Pirate Warrior before we move on?
No, I think that's basically it. I just kind of wanted to get it out of my system, because I'm very afraid that the comments of like influencers and whatnot would deter people from playing this. Because I know that if I were new, I would want to view myself as a good player, and then I would think that I would I would want to be too good for Quest Warrior.
No one wants to be told they're bad at the game.
No, and I'm gonna do you like even better. I have finished at top 1K legend. I have had some really good seasons, and I still need to play this once in a while. I forget about a lot of the fundamentals.
It's always good to refresh, right?
Yep, 100%. It could be challenging for me as well.
So we've been going for a bit. We do want to talk about some other decks in the meta. The next decks we're going to talk about, we're not going to go as in deep detail. We were talking about decks that we felt were outliers to the meta, that were kind of defining the meta in their specific brackets. So the next, let me look at my list, because I do have a list. Next 7 decks that we're going to talk about, a lot of them around for a while. We're not going to go too much into them, but these are the decks that we've seen a lot of, especially in Legend, with Rogue being a lot, very prevalent there. So we're going to talk about them. We're not going to go into every little thing you can do about them, but we're going to talk about them, just talk about how they fit in the meta and what they do.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to keep Axel up past his bedtime again. So going down the list that we made before the show, we have Fell Demon Hunter, which is not a new deck, but it kind of has a new way to win the game, and that's through Kurtrus Demon Renderer, who, when his basically, it's not his battle cry, but it's a good battle cry, but it's not his battle cry that wins the game. It's his hero power. His hero power set is a 1 mana, gain 2 attack. When a minion attacks, refresh this, and you combine that with Fellfire, Deadeye, and Expendable Performers, and that can deal a total of 26 damage, I believe.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot of damage, and it's the same kind of style of deck. It removes the board. It kind of heals up with spells and Talented Arcanist and Eldrachi Warblades. Then you have Jace to kind of replay all those, and you kind of hold off until your opponent does that. You can run Magtheridon too. I actually recommend it because it helps you with the Paladins and the Warlocks.
Yeah, I love Magtheridon.
It's so good.
But now Druids are eating him.
I know. We'll talk about Druid in a second. But the thing with this deck, if you're playing against it, you can kind of tell when these big turns are coming. Like once they play Kurtrus, you stop playing minions because then they can't attack.
Yeah.
It's the same deck. Actually, I were kind of talking before this though. We kind of missed the Oganoth. I don't think with the Moarg nerf you can run Oganoth anymore. It's too much. It's too hard to discount.
Yeah, it was already kind of janky before.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think that was the fun part of it. Like, you wouldn't really OTK with Illiganot. Like, I've hit him for like 90 damage or something with Illiganot before.
yeah.
Even in Fell Demon Hunter, like huge swings, but it's not something that you would do. Like, before you would get them to like, you had these break points where like 18 was a big one. If you get your opponent to 18 health, you can kind of easily kill him with an Illiganot. But of course, that's kind of lost now. And the focus is way more on just drawing Kurtrus to pull off the combo.
Right, and you don't have to win the game with Kurtrus. You do a lot of damage between Furies and Chaos Strikes and Jace that you don't need the Kurtrus combo all the time. It's there as a way to end the game, but you don't need it all the time. Interesting thing about this deck is it used to run Mage Hunters in the beginning, which I thought was pretty cool. Now those cards are dead. You don't play them anymore.
No, hunting everything except for mages.
Yep. Mages don't play minions. Oh, they kind of do. We'll talk about them in a bit. I do want to say before we move on, and that there is another Demon Hunter deck that I brought to THL this week. What deck do you think it was, Axel?
Maybe Death Rattle?
It was not. It was Brutes.
Brutes!
I played 3 Brutes on turn 4.
Ah, that's sweet though.
That were all buffed. There was 1 7/8 and 2 8/9s, and my opponent lost.
Shoot, yeah, I can't imagine. Brutes. Did it feel good?
Oh, I felt so good, dude. My opponent was playing Handlock. I went coin, glide on 3, got my Brutes, and then played them the next turn. It was it played them the same turn. They tried to Soul Rend, they could not because they have more than 5 health. It was beautiful. I hope that after these nerfs, because there will be nerfs. There's always going to be nerfs.
Yeah,
Brutes become playable again because Brutes are so fun.
That would be
I don't even
so brief. Yeah.
I don't even care if it's third tier deck. I want to play Brutes. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to yell Brute me, dude. Win. That's all I want to do. But don't play Brutes on ladder. Don't take your Brutes to ladder. Bring them to counter Handlock in competitive matchups. But that's about it.
Yeah, makes sense.
The next one we have, this is actually a new one, and Axel and I were going to record a video about actually Death Rattle Demon Hunter because I was playing a lot of it, and Free Shaman because it was a new deck, but that was kind of before the holidays, and the meta moved very, very, very quickly. Thief Rogue is kind of a example of that, but so is this deck, and that is Beast Druid.
Yeah.
Have you played any of this deck?
No, I have super little experience. I don't like. I played a super early build that was like very close to like a Taunt Druid, but with beasts instead. But this one with the Umbral Owls and whatnot, I haven't touched it yet, and it looks really interesting.
I played a lower curve version of this deck. Corbett, who used to be a Wild streamer and is now a standard streamer because Wild is kind of a mess right now, played a version that cut a lot of the legendary, so it's an easier to build deck. It cut Wildheart Guff, it cut Kazakus, Gidra, and Ibis, and instead started running Trogs, Peasants. I'm just looking at the list, but it basically ran that stuff, lower curve to the ground, and you kind of go off earlier, and it works really well. Like I have been kind of, when I was more focused, I was kind of jumping between around top 1K with it.
Yeah, so, it's the one that I've seen in Diamond on my climb.
Oh, is it? But I mean, looking at the Vicious Syndicate version, it's the same idea, but you go longer. You can really buff up your Ibis. Kazakus is okay. Gidra, Kazakus and Gidra seem like cards you could take out of this deck and it would still be pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, the big swing turns are the Oracles and the 0 mana beasts, and also Ibis, because it'll copy Ibis.
Which is insane. Yeah. Like when you set up a big Ibis.
Big old.
Like 15-15 with Guff, because you can go really, really like high mana.
With Divine Shield and Rush, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I kind of like this, though. It's kind of like the evolution of Taunt Druid. You know, it's like, we had Taunt Druid. We still do, but this is kind of like the next step.
Yeah, I agree. It's like removing their weights.
Yeah, it's the Rocket League versus Gara.
Yeah. So it's nice to see the evolution, definitely.
I will post the deck code of my version in the comments. All the lists I'm looking at today is from Vicious Syndicate. So if you
Yeah.
go on there, that's where you'll find these. But I will post my version of Beast Druid. If you're like, hey, I don't have Kazakis, I don't have Gidra or Ivus, you can play my version, which I think I've actually beaten this version of Beast Druid with my version. So
Sweet. And also, like, it's not fun to craft Gidra right now because she's going away
yeah.
in the next expansion.
So Axel, your
Yeah.
time to shine. I know I've been taking over the past 2 decks. Next deck is Face Hunter.
Yep. Okay, Face Hunter. It's not. It's a strong deck, and it has a ton of favorable matchups. But the most played in high ranks are sadly unfavored. So it's like a lot of Thief Rogues and a lot of Paladins. And it's really hard to beat. But of course you can do it because you have a secret weapon now, and that's the Trogg, the Irondeep Trogg. It's so good. It's very important that you play this because I would say that the deck is barely good without it. So before you used to run Wound Prey, and that would be like the 3rd lowest win rate card in the deck. And now you include a Trogg, which is the most, like the highest win rate card in the deck. So it's kind of a no-brainer to put it in. And it's a card that makes, if you get it out on 1, a lot of quest decks can't even play their quest because you're gonna get two Trogs, which is absolutely huge. You have a bunch of resources to make the Trog big, like you have buffs for it. I think you would usually rather put your buffs on this instead of the Arcane Anomaly. So it's just a super good card for kind of being able to punch back and develop. So I think Trog is really making Face Hunter right now.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But the Vicious Syndicate version of this list is actually not running Arcane Anomaly anymore.
Really?
It
Okay.
just Trog.
Just Trog? Yeah.
Just Trogs.
So, yep. The Anomaly can be kind of clunky. Like, it's very, very difficult to play it without the coin on turn 1. But I would say that it's really good to have it in the mirror because Hunter was one of the most, like, the mirror was one of the most played, like, the one of the mirrors. I used to play the mirror like a lot. Like, it was 23% of my ladder experience were other Face Hunters. And in the mirror, you have this like back and forth where you are trying to use your low value card to take out your opponent's high value card while developing your own tempo.
Are you telling me that you want to develop tempo while taking away your opponents?
Yes, definitely. And yeah, so I definitely recommend running the Anomaly. I'm gonna keep it because I think it's super good if you can stick one. And if your opponent decides to ignore it, you're gonna have a really big Anomaly afterwards, like after a couple of turns.
So Axel is the rebel of the Hearthstone community, playing Arcane Anomaly in his Face Hunter.
No, but I think most people do it still.
Yeah. I haven't. This is like one of the decks. I can't say too much on it because it's a deck that hasn't really clicked with me. I've played aggro decks. I played Shadow Priest. I love that deck, but for whatever reason, Face Hunter is just a deck that I can't connect with and bring the wins home like Axel can.
Yeah, but experience.
Yeah, Axel's just a better player than I am. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kind of speed through the rest here just because we have 4 more decks we want to talk about, but we're gonna speed through them because we've been going for over an hour and we don't want to keep anyone too long, even though we know we're great and we have beautiful voices that you want to listen to.
Yeah, pretty faces. If this is on video,
if my camera doesn't crap out, then yes, we'll be good.
Yeah.
So we have 2 mage decks. I kind of only want to talk about one. It's kind of the one that's probably most popular, though I think lower ranks are playing the other one, but it's Mozaki Mage. And this deck isn't terribly new. It's Quest Mage without the quest. That's what it is.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
It's what it is. You kind of hope, you cross your fingers and hope you get flow on 2 or 3, 2 if you have the coin, and then you draw through your deck with Refreshing Spring Water, which is still busted, Arcane Intellect, Sometimes you see probably just one of your cram sessions, and then also multicaster, which is a really good card. I think that's a card that when I saw it, I underrated.
Mm, definitely. Me too.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the reason why, like, I've played well over 100 games with this now, and my win rate in the first 50 were absolutely horrible. And then I turned it all around, and a lot of that was kind of realizing the power of the multicaster.
And I mean, it's a great card. And I'm always kind of surprised whenever I play this deck, and I'm like Sam Paladin, I have Carriel up. I'm like, yep, they can't get me. I have the weapon, and I always forget that Siphon mana goes face.
Yeah.
I don't like that it goes face.
I like it.
But it's a
Yeah.
pretty straightforward deck. Draw your deck, play your combo, hope it doesn't get Mutanist, and that's it.
Yeah. The game plan is straightforward, but the execution is very difficult.
Yes, you have to kind of navigate how you're gonna draw your cards, what spell to play, because I don't think the deck runs Ice Barrier.
No.
So
I know like some really high ranked players are running Ice Barrier,
yeah,
but usually
right,
people are not. I'm not
because
running Ice Barrier.
it doesn't cost 0 when you play 2 Incanter's Blows.
Yeah, basically. And
But
it's like hand space is a huge thing in this. It's
yeah,
really like it's a weird one. Usually when I pull off my wins, I end up burning a lot of cards in the process.
it's
Because I have
very easy to take fatigue damage too with those like last cram sessions. You really have to think them out.
Yeah.
So before can't really talk about this next one a lot just because I haven't played Mage in forever, except on EU where I was bullying children with Mozaki Mage. I switched to bullying kids with Garrote Rogue now. So
good, man. Those elven archers are doing work.
the amount of Muklas I saw the first time I stepped on EU was ridiculous. It's Ping Mage. How much Ping Mage have you seen?
A lot. I think the majority on EU, like at least in Diamond, has been Ping Mage.
Really?
And yeah, it's. I think it seems pretty good. It seems decent.
Yeah, there's definitely something there, and there definitely wasn't something there a week or two ago. But now I think like there's kind of two versions on Vicious Syndicate. There's the big spell mage, and there's the multicaster, lower the curve mage. Both run Mask of Cthulhu. Most want to go. They want to go face and play Mordresh. Mordresh is kind of nuts. 10 damage is a lot of damage.
Yeah. So, but basically, like, the biggest tip is go tall instead of wide.
Really?
Because of the goblin that will ping off everything on your board.
That card's nuts. If they play 2 wildfires, that's a hellfire.
Yeah, and also it's gonna enable their Mordresh, so you can kind of if you go tall, also like a big tall minion will also soak like Mask of Cthulhu, because
what is the most tilting experience ever? It's not Rogue, surprisingly. It is when your opponent plays Rune of the Archmage and they cast a Mask of Cthulhu.
Yep. Oh,
it's annoying.
Yeah. But yeah, Ping Mage, I think it's not super good, but I think that if you're good at the game, I think you can take this pretty far.
I think you have to kind of know like what you're up against. There's probably some decks that this does not beat. I have to look at the stats, but I mean, I think it's a popular deck. People want to play this style of Mage deck. It plays minions, which Mage hasn't done for a while.
Yeah, it seems very fun.
So we have 2 more decks, and they've been around for a while. We can kind of swing these out in a few minutes. Libra Paladin.
Yeah.
It's not really much to say about this, right? We kind of know what this does. It plays big Divine Shield taunt minions on curve, and then plays a busted hero card, right?
Yep. Carriel is very, very annoying.
Carriel itself can end games, you know. It turns the Hunter hero power to 1 damage. Ships only do 1 damage. It shuts down a lot, and it even shuts down. It's not a popular deck anymore. It might be after the patch, depending on what they hit. But Garrote Rogue, it shuts that down too. Like, which used to be a bad matchup for the Paladin.
Yeah, and like Paladin is the reason why people are running Viper now.
Yep.
Which usually isn't usually doesn't feel worth it. It's
No,
just yeah, and rogue, I guess. If you're up against a lot of rogues, then
I would
paladins.
say if your deck, I'm ignoring Poison Rogue in this. If your deck loses because of the weapon to Paladin, if you can find a space for it in your deck's own game plan, so probably not Face Hunter, run Viper. If you just are like, I want to beat Paladins and you want to play Viper, don't do it. Because you can probably find a way to beat Paladin without the Viper.
Yeah. Because, and I know like it doesn't feel like it, but I promise you, they don't always have it.
No, rogues will always have scabs, but Paladins will not always have carry.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they're pretty efficient at drawing as well, so
yeah,
they're gonna find it.
They are gonna find it. But this deck, what I found playing this deck is it has so many legendaries that the one you want will always be at the bottom of the deck.
Yeah.
Also, this is running Mr. Smite also, which kind of tells me they should change that card to your other pirates have charge. Just a thought. Just a thought.
But it seems wonky. I get why it's there. You want to buff it with the Carriel hero power, but I feel like it's I don't like it in Libra Paladin. I was trying out some like Mutanus instead, but nothing really worked. So I think it's the best option right now.
Yeah, there's not really anything else. You could probably make it a more control-y deck. You add like city taxes, but then you make it yourself less offensive. I don't know. Battlegrounds Battlemaster is the other card you could run instead, which I don't like as much because if you're top decking and the only card you have is Mr. Smite, I want to be buffing up Mr. Smite every turn and then hit him for like 30. Where Battlemaster's like, I don't have any minions. I can't really do anything with 6 mana 5/5.
Yeah. I don't like Smite because I don't want to craft him in gold. So he kind of ruins my Libra Paladin deck.
Well, you don't have to craft them in gold. You don't have to craft your decks in gold. Don't be like Axel.
I have to.
The last
Face Hunter and Demon Hunter and
Libra Paladin. Really quick, and then we'll talk about this last deck. Axel sent me a picture of him crafted Death Rattle Demon Hunter all in gold, and he said it's cursed now. I don't think Death Rattle Demon Hunter is going to get nerfed, but I think Kurtrus is going to get nerfed.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because Kurtrus is nuts.
Yeah.
And the last deck we have another deck that's been around for a while, and we're skipping some classes like Priest and Shaman because even though you may see them on ladder, they're usually rogues, and they're also not that prevalent.
Exactly.
Like every time I see a Shaman or a Priest on ladder, I'm like, it's a rogue. Or a Warrior too. Warriors too, I'm like, it's a rogue.
Yeah.
The last one's Handlock. Handlock is kind of the counter to Thief Rogue.
Yeah, it's very good.
It removes everything. It plays a bunch of stuff that can be replayed after scabs. But it's the same deck. It's draw through your deck, get down to 10 cards, play your scavengers, heal up with bristlebacks, play 0 mana 8/8s, give them Wind Fury, hit them in the face. It's the same deck it was in Stormwind. It just added Full Blown Evil, which is actually a really good card.
Yeah. And of course, Tamsin.
Yes, that's the other hero card I think that's going to get nerfed because this card doesn't belong in Handlock. It belongs in another deck, but it's so good it's going in Handlock.
Like, do you want to know what's funny about Tamsin?
Yeah, what's up?
I don't even know in my head what she does. I just know that the game is over when they play her.
She does
I know that they
so
draw
much.
a bunch, they deal damage, and like their hero power is like draw a card and get a 3/3, and then they get 2 3/3s, and there's like some healing in there, and I don't even know what's going on.
This card does so much, and then we'll close this out. It deals 3 damage to all minions. It shuffles 3 rifts into your deck that summon an imp when they're played, a 3/3 imp, and then it draws 3 cards. Gives you 5 armor, and changes your hero power to an upgraded version of the Warlock hero power. Shuffle rift in your deck, draw a card, don't deal damage to yourself.
Oh my.
There's so many words on that card. And it costs it costs 6.
It's really crazy. It's a good one. I know you want to damage yourself when you play the quest, but this is too good.
It's too good. This card is a card that should definitely be in a Warlock deck that isn't Handlock, the quest version of Handlock, because it goes against the game plan, but it's such a good card.
Yep.
But yeah, that's kind of the meta. Like I said, there is some Quest Shaman, some Bolner Shaman running around. If you're playing that and loving it, good for you. It's just not. We have us personally. We haven't seen it a ton. I know everyone. I know that Wicked Good's playing Priest, but Wicked Good's one player out of every other player, so we can't really touch it on those too much. And we've been going for an hour 15, so I think we're gonna wrap it up here.
Seems good.
We'll be back in a week or two. Talk about something. We don't know yet. We'll figure it out. Maybe maybe we'll finally talk about Death Rattle Demon Hunter.
That's my dream.
Well, you're the one we could have, but you're like, no, let's talk about the meta, and then we went on a tangent about rogues and warriors. So
yeah, but we needed to.
We did. Those are
for
decks
the community.
For the community, and those are decks that are really powerful right now.
Yeah.
But guys, subscribe to Axel. He's making great content. His next video is going to be awesome. He told me what it is. He can spoil it if he wants to, but that's not my place to.
Big Beast Hunter.
Big Beast Hunter, playing some big boys. And there should, I say should, don't hold me to it, but there should be a Getting Competitive in Hearthstone video on my channel later this week. I'm going to try and have this out on Monday or Tuesday at the latest, just because there's probably a patch coming on Tuesday. But if you watch the Keep Getting Competitive in Hearthstone, you should see some brutes.
Yeah, man, you 100% should.
Okay.
Great. Yeah.
And then, yeah, we should be back here pretty soon. All the links are in the description. Axel's will be in the description as well. Go subscribe to him. Great content. Cannot say that enough.
Thank you.
But guys, with that'll do it. I hope you are, if you are playing Rogue, I don't wish you ill will. I just wish you minor inconveniences, like, I don't know, like your food's just not quite as warm as you want it to be. Your coffee is a little cold. Not enough to like ruin your day, but just like, I wish it's a little warmer. That's all I wish on you. I don't wish bad things. Don't put me on hashtag play nice Hearthstone. But that's minor inconveniences. That you hit every red light on the way to work. That's what I want for all my Thief Rogue players out there. Poison Rogue, tons of ill will. Just we're not going to get into that. But yeah, we're gonna shut it down for today, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out, Axel.
Thank you, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it has been. It's been fun, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.